Building a family can be a complicated, messy, lonely, and sometimes heartbreaking process. But you don't have to navigate this challenging journey alone.
Welcome to the All Paths podcast, where we support and celebrate all of the different ways there are to try to grow your family. We are your hosts, Kate and Emily from the nonprofit organization All Paths Family Building. And today we're talking with Karalyn Connolly about her journey and her work in this space. Karalyn, thank you for joining us today on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to join you both.
Well, we're so happy to talk to you today. And before we get into your own family building journey in more detail, we'd love you to just introduce yourself to our listeners.
My name is Karalyn Connolly. I live up in New Hampshire, and I grew up near Boston, so longtime New Englander. I have a 16-year-old son and boy-girl twins that are almost 12 years old. I work in the medical device sales industry and have held various roles. I now work for a company called Femisys, which is based out of Atlanta, Georgia, where its mission is to support women's health and provide more options in multiple areas of women's health, specifically right now in fertility.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And we're going to dive into kind of the professional side of things in a little bit. But to get started, can you share a little bit about your own family's journey? Where did it all begin?
It seems like a lifetime ago. And there's many details that I think that you forget along the years. And when you're back and immersed in it, a lot of memories come back and a lot of feelings come back.
Mm-hmm.
So we started our family, had our son as soon as we got married with no problems at all. Things were easy. Had a plan of having two children 2 years apart. That was kind of our vision. And then we got kind of slapped in the face a little bit with some secondary infertility that was unexplained and still is unexplained to this day. And this was 13, 14 years ago, and fertility was not an issue in my family. Did not really know anybody around me who was dealing with this. And it was scary. And of course, you have these feelings of, well, I must be doing something wrong because it's all me. It's always my fault. And really at the time after trying for a while, really just started to kind of seek out some help. And that's where my fertility struggles really started.
And why do we do this to ourselves where we make a hard situation worse by like the self-blame and the shame and all these things? It's like if we could only control it, and not have us do that to ourselves. I wish we wouldn't do that. So then you said, then you kind of turned this corner and started to go the fertility healthcare route. What did that look like?
So I started my conversations with my OBGYN, of course. That's typically where we see most of those conversations begin. And she knew at the time that I was trying, and of course I was 33 at the time, so under 35, you're really not seeking any sort of interventions until you're trying for 12 months. So we knew our plan of having kids 2 years apart. We knew that was already out the window. But at that point, you kind of make this your mission, and you're like, no one's going to tell me what I can't do, right? I really do, no matter what other people's opinions are. And I'd love to, kind of dive into that at the right time as well, because some of those things that people say can be really helpful, and some of them are, I think, unintentionally really insulting. So waited the 12 months and then started to begin talking about medicated cycles, timed intercourse, and then moved into some IUI cycles. And this was all through, at the time, my OBGYN office and being consulted by a reproductive endocrinologist, but really still, based in the OBGYN setting, which I think 14, 13 years ago was probably even less common than it is now. So that was nice. And then I said, okay, I'm starting IUI. I'm going to get pregnant now. I swear, after my first IUI, I was like, oh, I feel pregnant. I feel different. It's like, okay, well, that didn't work either. That happened to you too, Kate?
I know, yes. I'm just like nodding so much. And someone we talked to someone else on a podcast and they were saying that they had a confession to make. And if I had to make a confession, mine would have been, I thought my first IUI was going to work. Like I absolutely thought, not just, because a lot of people are like, oh, I had no idea IVF doesn't just always work. That's how I felt about IUI.
Me
We
too.
had, I just thought you put this and this together and it's going to work. I just was convinced. And I took that I had a really hard very emotional reaction to my first
Mhm.
unsuccessful IUI because of that. Because I just thought, oh, even with help, I'm not getting pregnant.
Yeah, agree. It was very much the same. And so then when that was not successful, just, continued to agree to do more. So ended up doing 4 cycles with IUI, that were all unsuccessful. And I think at that point, when I started IUI, I knew in my soul I did not want to go down the IVF route. And I try to think back and really understand why. And I don't really have a good reason. And I mean, obviously it's invasive and it's a lot to go through physically and emotionally. And again, I was very fortunate, as long ago as this was, that my employer at the time covered fertility benefits. So my out-of-pocket cost for IVF was extremely low, which is something else that I felt guilty about because I knew friends that were not able to afford IVF and they wanted it, or did IVF and were really struggling financially because of it. But I still did, it just never felt right. Like, this is not the right path for me. But by the time that I finished my fourth IUI unsuccessfully, again, it's this drive, this inner passion that comes out to say, I've done so much. I'm not going to stop now. And I felt very lucky that I had the opportunity to do it. The only difference at the time was because of the insurance mandates, I had to travel down to Massachusetts for my treatments. So I did. I started treatment. I think, I don't know if this is helpful to share, but I think I'll share it anyway. Another challenge for me was that my spouse and I were not on the same page.
Mm.
And this was something, after so many struggles and trying, that, when you're both not equally passionate to move forward into something that is really very difficult and challenging and deeply emotional, it makes it even harder. And then you still feel guilty about, well, I still want this. And you're saying, okay, it's fine. We have a son already. Life is good. Everything is fine. We're lucky. We're blessed. And we are all of those things. Now you start to question yourself to say, well, should I just be satisfied with this? Is this okay? Is this enough? And I'll never forget. Oh,
It's
I'm
okay. Crying
crying.
is all right.
Okay.
I think we cry on the podcast all the time. Do not apologize for having feelings.
Crying, swearing.
That's okay.
It's
It's okay. All
All
right.
okay.
yeah, anything, all of the above.
When I was having the conversation with my reproductive endocrinologist in New Hampshire, and she knew that my husband at the time and I were not on the same page, she looked at me and she said, there's something in you that knows when your family is complete. And it was almost like a permission slip to say, it's okay to keep going. It's okay to keep trying. You don't have to settle just because you feel like you have to. And that's what I would want to share with others too, is to say, when the right time is to continue, and when the right time is to stop.
And I think that's so relatable there. This journey can wreak havoc on all of your relationships, but I think it's really, really common if you have a partner when you're going through this, that to find that you're not on the same page every step of the way. I mean, you can't be like, it's
It's
living with
really not
someone, like
possible.
being partnered with someone. Obviously, like you're going to have disagreements. And if you're going through something this challenging and this emotional, yeah, there's never going to be a time where you're 100% agreeing on everything. It's really hard.
And I totally agree. And I also think secondary infertility is also really unique emotionally, even within this broader community of people struggling with family building, is because you're putting this pressure on yourself to be grateful, to be satisfied, to be blessed, to feel blessed. Yes, and to have that feeling that your family is not yet complete. And so that is happening. And I think we hear from a lot of people sometimes, and we try to obviously counter this, but we hear from people all the time that say, like, I don't really feel like I fit in to any community because the people trying to become parents don't want to hear from me, who easily had my first child. But then, like, I don't necessarily fit in with my friends who feel like they have the perfect family that they envisioned.
Well,
So then when you're already having all those influences and then your own partner is saying, which is of course a valid feeling to have, it just didn't align with yours, is
Sure.
to say like, I think this is enough, this is enough for me. But it was also very valid for you to say, I'm not feeling like I'm done yet. And you weren't ready to stop trying. And so that is you were dealing with a lot of layers of emotional journey on top of the physical ones that you go through with fertility treatments. So I
Right.
appreciate you sharing that.
Of course. And while also trying to be a good mom to your son at the same time, right? Who was 2, 3 years old at the time. But still fighting for him too, to say, I envision you having a brother or a sister in the future. So like you said, it's coming at you from all angles.
so what happened next? Were you able to kind of move through that point and come to an agreement about what your next steps would be?
Yes. Well, I would say we moved forward. Did we agree still every step of the way? from, from
Real talk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably not. And I don't want to minimize a man's fertility journey also, right? It's, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not me, but I recognize it, I appreciate it, and I validate that it is hard and emotional on the man too. However, when I decided to, this makes me laugh. I decided to pull my records from my fertility journey with my clinic, because again, there are so many details you forget. I didn't know how many retrievals I did, and so I have all of that now, which is just, it's really neat to actually see. But they sent me my record, and it was 110 pages. And they
Hmm.
sent me his record, and it was 4.
Oh man. That's the
So
perfect
there's some,
illustration of that disconnect.
again, not minimizing it. I appreciate it, and feelings are valid for all humans. So yeah, so we continued, and I remember sitting in my reproductive endocrinologist office for the first time. So now I'm meeting someone new. And I remember getting emotional, and I started to cry, and I just said, this is not, ever where I thought I would be. And I was afraid of having twins. I didn't necessarily, like, I just came out with all of it, and I just said, I don't want to be here, and I don't want twins, and I don't know what I'm doing. And he was absolutely wonderful, and very kind, and really listened. So, he said, you're healthy. I have no reason to think that we can't, help you and your family achieve its goals. So let's get started. So I said, okay, let's do it. So, I mean, the journey is a lot longer from there. I'll kind of give you some cliff notes here. We started to do single embryo transfers. According to my records, because I did not remember any of this, I ended up doing 4 retrievals and 7 transfers, and 4 chemical pregnancies along the way. So I was getting pregnant and then experiencing that loss throughout. And that part, I remember, obviously, any loss is significant and it hurts. Especially when you're going through so much and you're achieving that pregnancy and you're getting excited, but then you're tempering your own excitement and then you're not really able to fully feel happy for yourself because you're just expecting it to be gone. And it was 4 times out of the 7 transfers. So it was right before the last retrieval. Again, I remember I was driving and I was talking to my doctor on the phone and I said, I'm done. I am done. I am not doing this anymore. I just can't. I can't do this. I can't take it. At that point, we were considering surrogacy with my sister. I talked to a priest. We were considering adoption. I just kind of thought that maybe this path was kind of leading me down into a different direction that I wasn't open to. So I started to be open to a lot of different ideas in order to still build my family. And I said, okay, this is it. And I'm not sure how he was wonderful. He, just said, hey, I have some new ideas. Let's try it one more time. And I did. So we did one more retrieval. That first transfer was the fresh transfer. And that was another chemical pregnancy, but I had some embryos left. So I had 2 frozen embryos left. And I said, fuck it. Let's do it. Let's take those 2. Let's pop them in there. And those became my twins.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, thank you for sharing all that.
So you specifically told your doctor in that first meeting that you were scared of twins. Then I see that's where the path led. So how did you navigate sort of emotionally and physically a pregnancy and birth and parenting multiples?
Yes, it was and obviously you look back, you wouldn't change a thing because I knew, that we had in thinking back, I think the previous transfer we had done 2 embryos. And so this was a second time trying for 2. And, now you find yourself like, I want them all, right? I will take all of them. So it's amazing how your mindset changes through the journey and that you do things that you said you would never do or want to do. And they're just truly, truly a blessing. So yeah, managed a very lucky, managed through very, I want to say easily, but a very uncomplicated twin pregnancy, full term delivery.
That's awesome.
Everything really could not have gone could not have gone better. Delivered them both at 38 weeks. They were very healthy.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
At that point, you were like, we're done. Family's complete. You felt that in your soul?
Yes, I felt the closure. Work was demanding, so I was working full time throughout all of this. Maternity leave was not very long, and kind of getting back into being a professional and being a mom, a wife, trying to do well at work. I knew that we were done. We were done trying to build the family.
Yeah. So how much did your own journey impact your professional life? I mean, aside from, like the logistical side of trying to juggle 3 kids plus working full time, did it impact the direction that your career took at all?
Well, I would say more by happenstance than anything else, because in I don't know if this is, common, but when your fertility journey is over, you take all of those feelings and all of that sadness and all of that darkness and you put it away in a closet and you shut the door and you put a big dresser in front of it and it just doesn't exist anymore because you're so grateful for what you have and you don't want to think about it anymore. And I did that for over 10 years. And it was, it was wonderful. It was great.
And then we come along and say, could you talk about it on our
Please
podcast?
relive all of your trauma for us.
No, but we're not the first. You've already gone there, so I don't feel as guilty. But
so it was about a year and a half ago that I had some changes in my previous role. And my position was eliminated. And at the same time, my father had passed away and I had been caring for him along with my other sisters. And it was just kind of saying, I need a break for a minute. And it was during that time that I was taking a break that I was reached out to by this company to say, hey, we're building a new team. Is this something that you'd be interested in? And I said, okay, well, tell me a little bit more about it. And they said, okay, we're a small women's healthcare company. We have a recently approved product that is for inseminations. And I remember them talking to me about it, like really explaining, what it is and what's an IUI and how is this different. And I'm like, okay. They had no idea that I had had my own personal experience with this. So clearly it was something that I said to myself at the time, okay, let's explore this a little bit more. How is this all kind of coming around full circle? So to be back, kind of in this space and to be able to potentially help people, to help women, men, families, anyone who wants to be a parent achieve that goal in their own way really it's extremely fulfilling.
That's great. And I mean, truly, I feel like that shines through. I feel like because, I just feel like you are such a great fit for your role. And I think that's partly because of that. Even if it wasn't even stated in the beginning, it shines through in the work that you do, that you bring such a personal connection to it. And yeah, when you were sharing your story, I was thinking how kind of full circle it is actually that IUIs, unsuccessful IUIs, were part of your own journey, as they are for unfortunately a lot of people.
Mhm.
And it is wonderful in a way that you're working with this company and with this technology that is trying to help optimize inseminations like IUIs. And it really is exciting in that way. So, can you share a little bit more about the different products, if that's the right word, or
Yeah.
services that Phemicist has that are trying to look at optimizing insemination?
Yeah, I would love to. Many people, many providers and patients know our company for FemView, which is an air and saline test used in the diagnostic stage of fertility. So that instills air and saline into the uterine cavity, which then flows into the fallopian tubes to show patency. So we know that as, just an alternative to a fluoroscopic HSG. It's office based. It's done, oftentimes at the same time as your saline infused sonogram. So saving a little bit of time for the patients and allowing those results to be achieved a little bit quicker. So it's really nice to again have an option for more offices and for more patients. And then really why the new team got started last year was because the FDA had cleared a new device called Femiseed. And what Femiseed is another insemination option, similar to that of IUI, but with a much more targeted approach. So many of you know that with IUIs, a catheter is placed through the cervix and your washed sperm is deposited within the uterine cavity, where then the sperm swims up into the fallopian tubes in order to meet your egg from your dominant follicle that has been released within that cycle. And what the difference is with Femiseed is that the catheter is placed a little bit higher up in the uterus, but there's a balloon catheter that targets the fallopian tube on the side of ovulation, depositing the entire sample on the side where we know the egg is being released from the patient's monitoring to increase the likelihood that that sperm is actually going to meet the egg.
Oh, cool.
It's really exciting. And I think, some of the things that make me most excited about it, again, having been a patient with my own fertility journey, is that there are other options. And I think specifically, the research that has been done around Femiseed shows a higher likelihood of pregnancy versus traditional IUI, specifically for patients with male factor infertility, which I know more and more providers are telling me that the percentages of people who are presenting with male factor infertility are
Huh.
increasing. So for patients who are starting their journey and maybe have male factor infertility, but maybe want to start with an IUI like procedure, they might be told or directed to IVF. And again, any decision made between patients and providers is most important. But for patients to know that there are other options to specifically for male factor infertility that might help increase their likelihood of success with an IUI-like procedure, like using with Femicide, is really exciting. I think some other patients that could benefit from this are patients who are doing IUI cycle after IUI cycle unsuccessfully, and they're just not able to, they're not ready emotionally, financially to take that jump to IVF, that there is something else that they might be able to try.
That's really cool. And I love that there are now starting to be options to fill that gap in.
Yes. Another thing that we hear from patients also is that when they try Femicide and it is unfortunately unsuccessful one or two times, that patients feel a little bit more ready and accepting of taking that step to IVF. And I can only speak from myself. It took me four failed IUI attempts to then say, okay, I'm going to go do this. And again, I wouldn't change anything about my journey because I have my wonderful babies that are 12, so they're not babies anymore. But for patients who are going through that journey and are just not ready to take that step, we do hear that patients can feel more ready after really trying everything that they can.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The other part of this is that it can be done at your OBGYN office as well. If there's an OBGYN who is doing IUIs and has the capability to wash sperm, this is something that we can help more OBGYNs bring on board to help provide another option specifically for those patients who are not making that transition over to reproductive endocrinology, just to provide another tool for them as well.
Oh, wow. That's really awesome, especially if you're somewhere where you don't have easy access to a clinic and you're trying to do as much through your OB as possible.
And again, I would also say I'm not medical, I'm not clinical, and there are options that are appropriate for patients. There are options that are not appropriate for patients. So it really is the decision of the provider and the patient to determine the best treatment plan for them moving forward.
Of course.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't say that I feel like you would do this no matter what, just because of who you are, but I feel like, again, maybe partly through the lens of a former patient, you don't characterize this as like the magic thing that's going to help everyone. It's like I feel like there's so much over promising in our field, and that obviously our organization is very protective of the community of people, especially those currently trying, that they're so desperate for something that they think is going to help. And so we're very, cautious about that. But I do really appreciate how Femesis is very science oriented and is very much using this as another option and not the only option, not a guarantee, but really looking at innovation. And I think the reaction to it and the response to it has been really exciting so far, right?
It has been. There's been a lot of positivity, and really at the end of the day, it's about offering the options to patients, and quite honestly, what's giving me a lot of confidence and providing more urgency for me is that patients are reaching out to our company saying, how can I learn more? Where can I go get this? So there is, if this is okay to share, if there are patients who are interested, please visit our website at Femicede.com. It's FEMASEED.com. And there's a big purple button on the front of the screen that says find a practice. And so there's been almost 5,000 patients so far who have done that on their own. So people are reaching out to us to say, where can I go? So we're looking for more partners, more clinics to partner with. And that's driven by the patients. So I don't want to let patients down. Again, it's not going to be the right option for every patient. And patients may choose other paths, which is absolutely fine. But from a clinic perspective, to say, yes, I'm going to offer it if this is the right option for patients, and let them choose more options. There's not been other options aside from IUI and IVF in decades. So to be able to offer something different, I think specifically for patients where IVF is just 100% off the table. It's just not a possibility financially, emotionally, for their own beliefs, that this is a natural form of conception. That could be that next step that might make sense for patients.
Yeah, I think I appreciate you sharing that. And yes, we absolutely will share information about, on the website in our links, and we'll make sure people spell Phemacis right.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
sometimes it's like Phemacis, like sister.
Yeah.
Like, no.
I like it.
I mean, we like that, but yeah, it is SYS. So we do want to say that we really appreciate Phemacis being a member of the circle of support of All Paths Family Building. We really appreciate that. And, our philosophy is just we want to make sure patients are aware of these many resources out there. And so in that spirit, that's why we want to share, and we get excited about innovation. It's like if we find better ways to do these things, we want to share them because we want patients to be empowered. We want providers to know about these things and hopefully add them to their arsenal of in their toolbox. So
That's great.
we're really proud to partner with you, and we loved having Phemacis part of our Footsteps for Family Building walk this
It was
year.
such a great day. I was just so honored to have been part of it.
So we have two questions that we like to ask all of our guests. And you can answer this from kind of your personal perspective or from your professional lens as well. But the first is, what's one thing that you would say to somebody who is just starting to grow their family?
It's a good question. I would say be prepared. Be prepared for anything. And you have a very a picturesque view of what's going to happen and how easy it might be. And it might be easy. And if it is, that is absolutely wonderful. I would also suggest that if it is easy, to not necessarily boast and brag about how easy it is, because there's a real high likelihood that someone surrounding you, either vocally or quietly, is struggling. So that would be my biggest piece of advice, is to know to be prepared for anything, but also seek out help. And that is okay to ask for help, whether it's within your circle or within your medical community. You're certainly not alone, and you should not feel isolated or feel like you're doing anything
Oh, I
wrong.
love that.
Love that.
So, and the second question is, how can someone show up for a friend or a family member who might share that they're struggling?
That's a really big question. And I really love this question a lot, because oftentimes people think that they're helping and they're not actually helping. So I would say the biggest piece of advice is to just listen and be there. And you won't always have something to say, and you won't have the right thing to say. And that's okay to actually say that. Like, I don't know what to say, but I love you and I'm here for you and I'm here to listen. I think that's one piece. I think another piece of advice for others is, maybe if there's, because of the struggle, or maybe there is early pregnancy loss, which is so common in patients' fertility journeys, is, as the listener, is to not relate it to a story of your own, to say, okay, well, when I had my loss, this is what happened. And I don't want to discount the harm and the hurt that others feel for their own losses. But when you're going through it, you really just need someone to hear you, be there for you, listen to you, and hug you in that moment. Again, not taking away from anybody else's, but everybody's loss is different based on previous previous experiences, or what their journey was to lead up into that point. I think is really helpful. Even though others always have really good intentions, some of people's comments can actually be more hurtful, and then it can make you, as the person going through all of this, just say, you know what, it's just easier for me to stay quiet and to stay alone, because this hurts less than other people trying to tell me how I should feel or how I should react or how I should be grateful for what I have. Just be there and listen. That's all. My biggest advice.
I absolutely love that. And I'm sorry. It sounds like people didn't follow that for you.
Not all of them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And I mean, not that we glossed over it, but but you went through a lot of
Yeah,
losses. I mean, that is
it's a lot.
really, really challenging. And like you said, not only is each one of them challenging, but it takes a, a little bit of the shine off every subsequent pregnancy, you know, conception to the point that probably there's no shine left. I'm sure you were very anxious in the beginning of your twin pregnancy,
Oh,
um,
I was a
in
mess.
probably couldn't enjoy it very much,
Mm-mm.
maybe for most of it
Yes,
because of that.
for
Yeah.
most of it, really, until I held them. Yeah, that worry and the panic and the fear really never goes away. I mean, it never goes
Yeah.
away as a mom
Right,
anyway,
right,
but
right. But I did just want to say that out loud that we feel you and that is really hard to go through.
thank you. Thank you both.
Regardless of the outcome,
Hmm.
that is very hard to go through.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it does take a lot out of what should be joyful too.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Karalyn, for joining us today, for sharing your story, and for sharing about all the cool work that Femesis is doing.
All right, bye, ladies.
We hope you'll join us next time for more family building stories and resources. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts to make sure you never miss an episode. And follow us on social media at allpathsfb or visit our website, allpathsfb.org, for more information about our work. All Paths Family Building is so grateful to the members of our circle of support who are vital to our ability to provide emotional support, education, and advocacy that is open to anyone struggling to grow their families. Today, we want to send a shout out to our bronze sponsor, Femesis. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Please help spread the word so that anyone who is struggling to grow their family can join the conversation. It's an honor to walk with you on your family building journey.